Hi, thanks for joining us here today. We're going to talk about toilet learning. You might have heard it being called toilet training before, but we're using a different term and we'll, sort of unpack why we say toilet learning rather than toilet training as we go. My name's Trina and this is Amanda.
Hello.
And we're here at Child Australia and we're working to help support parents and carers and educators to join together to support children as they toilet learn, because it's a big stage.
It's huge. And it's time consuming as well.
Yeah, it's a big transition.
Let's acknowledge country to start. So we wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are meeting and learning today. So we are recording on the beautiful Noongar Whadjuk Budja. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And we also wish to extend our respects to elders past, present and emerging from where you're tuning in from today.
There are many toilet learning tips that we can share today. And then we're going to talk about all these throughout this little mini presentation about understanding toilet learning as a milestone. So it's something for children to, move through, transition through. It's not something you can, all of a sudden just do.
No.
It's about helping you recognise when your child is ready to start learning, because it's about when they're ready, not when we're ready.
Yes, it's not. We can't fit children into our routines with their toilet learning, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the hard part is they're not always able to communicate this and recognise those symbols. So we have to really look at those clues and figure it out. We're going to provide you with some supportive strategies so that you can support your children, and we're going to talk about keeping it positive.
Yep.
Because it can be really stressful and it's hard to stay positive sometimes when you've had lots and lots of accidents and you feel like you've taken one step forward and two steps back. So we're going to talk about things that you can do and resources that can also help and make it a bit more fun.
Yeah, there's lots that we can do. Okay, Trina, so one of the big questions is how do we actually know when a child is ready to start toilet learning?
Okay, so there's no magic number that we go, okay, 2, off we go. Around that age is when we can start going, all right, they should be developing, because we know that children develop in a pattern, a typical pattern that we can predict.
Yeah.
They take longer. Some children will talk earlier, some children will run earlier. So it just depends on the physical development as well as getting those messages. So they have to be able to feel that feeling of being full and have this sort of feeling inside that they can feel there's something going on there, that sensitivity. Oh, I can feel this feeling, and connect it to those nerve messages to their brain to be able to go, oh, okay, that means I have to go to the toilet. So that's why it takes
hard
practice.
To know from a parent's perspective, especially. Is like, how do I know my child knows that they're full?
And how do they even know? It's a new
huge
feeling. Just like if you've ever been sick and you've had a tummy ache and you go, is this sick or is this just wind? It's that sort of thing, and we're adults, so young children with not much experience find it challenging. So it cannot really happen before 18 months because they haven't got that myelin. So the myelin is the fatty coating that coats your nerves to send that message. So that's not developed enough at all before 18 months. Generally speaking, most children they'll find it difficult before 2 years and 3 months. That sounds very specific.
It does.
But, don't, and then mark it on your calendar and go, okay, 2 years and 3 months, that's when we're starting. Once again, it's about how much experience the children have had, especially if they're not very active. We need to be active because that's sort of muscular control to do with your bladder control. So if children are climbing and running, it might take a little bit longer. So it's really important to be active.
I'm sort of thinking similar to teething. We've got those guidelines as to when to expect certain teeth to pop up.
Yeah.
But, of course, we don't know exactly. There are some children that do it super early, some that do it
wait for a year for their first tooth.
Exactly.
So it's got a broad range, but we're just giving you some general guidelines so that can help guide you.
Absolutely.
Then if they have an older sibling who's already doing it, that can be, help, make them more interested, especially if they're in there with you watching and learning. That can also mean they're more interested. It's just recognising that link between feeling and if they're going off and they're, it's called homeostasis, that understanding what's happening inside. If they're going away and doing a wee in the corner.
That corner hiding.
And then they're telling you that their nappy's wet, then they're getting an idea of it.
Yeah. So we know there's this pretty broad window of when your child is likely to be ready to start the process of toilet learning. But what are some of these key signs to help us as parents and caregivers to go, okay, they're starting to get that feeling that you're talking about. They're starting to get ready for toilet learning.
Yeah. So here are some of the real visible signs that you'll see, that they'll take their pants off and on. And that's one of the things they have to be able to do before they can toilet train. So if you've got a reluctant toilet trainer, are they able to actually get their pants on and off?
That's hard.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to fine motor skills.
Yeah. And as much as, little girls might like wearing tights and stuff, don't do that when you're toilet training. Just keep it simple. Tracky dacks, leggings, easy to get on and off. So they have to be able to pull up and down their pants. They might be interested in watching other people go into the toilet. They might want to play with the toilet paper. Obviously, we have to teach them about that. They use words and gestures to tell you that they've done a poo or a wee, so they've got some language. They might wet through their nappies. So that means they're holding on for a bit longer, so they're doing bigger wees. So then they have wee leakages, so they're not doing lots of little ones. They've got more muscle control, or they've got dry nappies. You might go, time to check your nappy. It's dry. It's still dry. That means, once again, they're holding on. Yep. They don't like the feeling once they've have a wet nappy, and they'll tell you they've got to change. They can sit for short periods. Really important that they can
sit down. Even if it's
down,
just 1 minute. 1 minute.
Let's go and check, and they can follow simple instructions. Okay, pull your pants down, wipe the bottom, all that sort of stuff. Yep. They have to be able to do that before they can be ready for toilet training. Whoops, toilet learning. I said it's been a long time, but I've been saying that the other way.
Yeah. So you call yourself out there calling it toilet training. Yeah. So why the change in language?
Yeah. So it's thinking about, first of all, toilet training was saying that the adults were in charge. We're going to teach them how to go to the toilet. Yes, what we're really teaching them is how to recognise the feelings that they have to go, rather than, okay, you have to go and, we're going to give you a reward if you get it right, and as if that's got much impact on whether they got the hang of it or not. So toilet timing is when we go, okay, every 30 minutes we've got to put them on the toilet because so we can catch their wee. So it's not really the children learning how to use the toilet. It's about us. We're really sort of, as the adult, being
but the
trained.
routine's great, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, for me, I don't time myself every single time I need to go. And I mean,
But that also can teach you to squeeze it out, or so it's really important that we also don't do that all the time, because the toilet timing teaches children to ignore their bodily cues to actually go because they feel full. And it can be really frustrating for everyone if nothing's happened and we keep doing it. We also have to remember that if we do put them on the toilet, because we might go around routines, we know that generally after a meal they want to go to the toilet, generally before you have a bath,
or
feel the running water after a sleep, all those sort of things. We know what their general routines are because we've been changing their nappies for a few years. So then we can start guessing when we might suggest they go to the toilet. And if we do get them to get on there, we don't make them wait any longer than 3 minutes on the toilet, because then it starts being like a punishment. And if you think about
3 minutes is a long time.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
We can't say, well, you're staying on there until you do a wee, because it could be an hour.
They could be, okay, well.
And especially if they're not drinking a lot. We've got to make sure they're really hydrated.
The time of the year can actually affect this as well.
Yeah. There are some stages that we can think about as we're supporting children through toilet learning. This doesn't mean they're going to be precisely one after the other, but this is a bit of a guide, and you might recognise these stages, especially if you've started doing some toilet learning with your children. And we're just going to quickly go through them and do a little bit more of a descriptor as we go. Stage 1. Toilet play might sound a bit bad.
I imagine so many times where there's been parents or caregivers that are like, don't play in the toilet. Yeah. And we can understand, of course, things get put down toilets. We get it. But this is different, isn't it? Yeah, this is different.
So we call it toilet play, even though they're not really playing in the toilet or with the toilet, but they might climb up on the toilet and pretend that they're doing a wee because they're copying you or someone else, so they might have their clothes on or off. But this is about becoming familiar with it and going, oh, yeah, I'm a bit interested. I might be able to do this. It also allows them to, if we allow them to see you use it is really important. Bringing the, toilet play to children's levels by having the dolls and the teddies and things like that. And, of course, reading stories and singing songs about going to the toilet.
Yep.
And there's some ideas for books. Zoo Poo's a really favourite one. Good, these stories. There's lots and lots of other ones, but I know I've used these ones, and there's some that you would have used as well. And these images are just some other ideas of, how you can promote that toilet play. Is that Pirate Pete's potty?
Pirate Pete.
Yeah. It's a song.
Yes.
And a little video, so a great one to sing and play with your children, especially around, when it might be reminding them after a routine. Yeah. You can associate these songs with part of your routine. Sylvania families, did you have them when you were growing up?
We did, and we collected them, and we, even just using, I think it was Mobilo or things like that. Children make their own toilets too.
Yeah, Playmobil, yes, and it's a great way to just do that playing. Stage 2, we let the children, we're practicing. So this is where we might go to the toilet and we let them flush it. Yep. Or they can help you with the toilet paper. It gets really up close and personal, but you've had children, they're
they're in your space.
Yeah. We encourage them to get up and down from the toilet. We practice washing and drying hands. Really important. Hygiene, toilet learning, they go hand in hand. So we have to make sure we do that at the same time because they will like to play with everything around the toilet. Practicing getting dressed, said that already. Even if it's an effort, even if they put their pants on back to front and there's QF, that's great. We maybe won't say, they're on backwards, they're wrong. We might let them
focus more on the fact they did it.
I think that's really important. If they walk around with them back front for a while, they might feel awkward after a while and you might encourage them to change. But I think it's really important that we encourage that effort. Don't correct, celebrate, and talk about your own toileting habits when you've got to go. I've just had a big drink of water. I need to go to the toilet.
Yep.
Stage 3. So this is possibly the most stressful stage because this is when they're really having to do it on their own. They can make that connection. So you've been saying, you might need to go to the toilet because you've just had some food, reminding them about usually you have to go to the toilet after a meal or, you just woke up, remember we go to the toilet, we're going to bed, let's go to the toilet. So this is when they are sort of on their own and they have to figure it out a little bit more and it can be really frustrating. But it's really important that we are protecting their self-esteem by being positive. So even if they don't make it to the toilet, we celebrate if they recognised, even though it was a bit late.
Yep.
That's great. They made that connection between the nerves.
Yeah. I think especially as, they get older as well and accidents do still happen. I still remember looking after a 3-year-old and when they had a really big accident, they were devastated. They were embarrassed. They knew, and so it's helping to maintain the dignity and the rights of the child as well as you're doing that. And you're like, it's okay. We all make mistakes. I mean,
that's right. We've all had accidents.
We've all had accidents. Sometimes as grown-ups it still happens, like it is something that is, and being mindful, I guess, of our reactions, our facial expressions, because we will get frustrated, absolutely, especially if it's the 10th accident that day. You're like, my washing, my water bill, all of that sort of stuff.
Be ready to be calm and be present.
That's it. It's just that acceptance.
And understanding also that children will generally manage wees before poos. So, if you're going to have a few poo accidents and you've just got to be prepared for that. Don't wait too long. I've already said that, 3 minutes max on the toilet. So because it can become really frustrating.
Oh, yes.
It's good to be armed with some statements that you can make to practice those so that when it comes time and that frustration does come upon you, you can go, I know what to say. Yes. So
it will happen.
It will happen. It is going to happen. You can guarantee it. So, one of them is growing up happens in 2 places. I can see growing up on the outside, you're getting so big, but you've got to grow up on the inside too, and that can just take a little bit longer. Yeah. So I explain, and then the second comment is, that your tummy is still growing up. let them know it's all right. Take your time. This is a big step.
Yeah. And sometimes for some children it might be a little bit scary as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. Reminding them going, you know what, sometimes there's some weird noises, there's some weird feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially if they're constipated, it might hurt, I guess, as well. So.
Yeah, and that's going to help make them hold on. So, we can say that if they have an accident, it's all right. This happens. Mm-hmm. This happens to lots of children, but, we can also encourage them that they're going to not to give up and go, oh, yeah, that happens. We don't have to worry about it, but also to say, and your next birthday is coming up and you're going to be so much bigger and I have faith you're going to get it.
Yeah, the power of yet.
Yes. Now, it may be tempting, and you may have heard some of these things said to you as you were growing up, but these are some of the things we could avoid saying. So saying things like that you have to sit there until you've done a wee or poo. We've already talked about that. Saying things like only babies wear nappies.
Yeah,
because
that makes me feel a bit ashamed, sort of. Yeah. It's like, well, no.
You can't really help it.
Adults wear nappies too.
Yeah.
There's certain things happen as grown-ups, right. And we do have to have nappies from time to time.
Yes.
Women have technically nappies from time to time, monthly. Anyway.
So we can say that saying that is, making someone who's trying to be bigger feel not so big, and sort of it's a shaming language, and we don't want to shame children. Saying that it's messy, dirty, stinky, is, sometimes it is smelly. They might comment on it when you're changing nappies, makes them feel a bit dirty, gross.
Yeah,
and that might be
observation.
more likely to go and hide.
Yeah.
Rather than go to the toilet. Making faces about nappies or accidents. I know it's really hard, but being conscious of that, like practicing those positive statements, will help. We don't criticise or punish a child who's had an accident because it's an accident. Just like you wouldn't hopefully, punish someone for knocking over a glass of water or something like that. It's like punishing someone for kicking their toe, really, isn't it?
And you can imagine the anxiety as well, is that, especially if there was an individual that kept, punishing you for having an accident. You're like, oh, well, that anxiety, and like, oh my gosh, am I going to lose control? And that would make things take even longer.
And that means then they'll hang on to it and they won't be able to let go. So then that will cause bigger issues. Avoid applying pressure or giving rewards like star charts. They really don't work, especially if they just have lots of accidents. And then you'll have a child that is a more headstrong child will go, oh, I don't want that anyway.
Yeah.
So in a way it teaches, and if they've got no control over it, it's not going to help at all. Avoid using incorrect names for genitals when you are doing that toilet training, and that's a protective thing that teaches children to learn about how to look after themselves later. So these are some other resources that you can use to help. If there's stairs for getting up to the toilet seats that can smaller for them to sit on. I remember working with a child who just loved the Thomas the Tank Engine. We had a Thomas seat that helped, except when he kissed it because he loved Thomas so much. That was we had to
that's so sweet.
We had to talk a lot about. Not
Hygiene.
Doing that.
You don't kiss our toilet. I mean, you might love your toilet, but you don't have to kiss your toilet.
You like Thomas, but not the toilet seat. The steps to help. There's any number. Some children will prefer a potty because they don't like the splash.
Yeah.
So if a child is avoiding the toilet for some reason, you might find out it's a splashy thing.
Yep.
And the benefit of the potty is that you can put it next to the bath as the bath's running and they hear the water running. You just sit on there. Oh, there's a wee. So you can, that can be helpful. In the middle of the training pads. So they've just got a little bit more absorption for those quick little leaks before you make it to the toilet. That can help children feel like they're bigger. Not so much like pull-ups, they still catch a little bit more than undies.
And allow that wetness. And depending on the nappies that you use as well. So you might find that if you use like the modern cloth nappies, that your child might get used to that wet feeling a lot quicker. And it does, it helps with those indicators so much. And
connect those feelings with what's happening in their body so they can make those connections. Well, Stage 4, independent learning. You think they've done it, they're on their own, off we go.
Stretch.
They've done it. They're going to be dry. My job is done. But wait, there's more. So you're still going to have to do lots of encouraging and reminding children, offering to help. So they might be doing that toilet dance, and you can ask if they need help.
Yeah.
Don't just give them help, because we want them to be able to do it themselves. Yeah. We need to stay calm when accidents happen, because they will happen, especially when they have that development where they're more engrossed in their play and they forget. They don't recognise those signs that they need to go. We don't want them to feel ashamed of having an accident. We might remind them, we see you're wet. Let's get some dry clothes, and we can encourage them to help get those clothes out, even to clean up with you.
Yeah. You make a mess, you clean the mess.
Yeah.
But it's not a punishment.
Yes. Yeah. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
And then we can let them set the pace.
Yeah.
Because if they are having lots and lots of accidents, and you're finding yourself really frustrated, and maybe they're finding themselves frustrated, it might be a sign that we might need to take a back step and try again later.
There's lots of things to remember as well, of course, but thinking daytime dryness and the nighttime dryness, they're separate milestones. So it's not going to all happen together at once. It might. You're really lucky. Awesome.
But can do.
Yeah. So
rarely.
If you're getting your dry daytimes and you're not getting your dry nighttimes yet, that's okay. That's normal.
Yeah. It can take, maybe they're dry. It might be 2 months, and then they're dry at night as well. Or it could be 3 years in between.
Absolutely.
So most children will be able to stay dry at night by about 5 years old.
Yeah. And no need to compare, of course. It's something that is so easy to do, especially when it does come down to, if you've got friends that have children of similar ages, or it might be that you've got multiple children, you might have more than one, and you're going, so-and-so, they did this so soon, or they were so much later, and are you doing it so quickly? What's going on? It's more, recognise patterns, but don't compare.
Yeah. We just have to be ready with all those things like towels, sheets, mattress protectors for nighttime. Be prepared for those accidents. Calling them grown-up undies when children are wearing undies, because they're not grown up. They're not grown up.
I don't know. They might have gone into your drawer and pulled out a pair of your delicates. But
they are still children, and so they're wearing children undies. They're just
wearing
undies. And because we don't want to put the pressure on to grow up too early. Avoid labelling nappies for babies. We've mentioned that already. Wheeze before poos. That's pretty normal. And waiting for warmer weather to toilet train. I've heard people say that's a good idea because you've got less clothes to deal with and wash. But I also had my children learning to go to the toilet in the winter because that's when they were ready. And I can tell you tracky dacks, they quite absorb a lot of wee, so you don't have many puddles. You mainly have wet tracky dacks. So in a way, it's sort of much of a muchness. Yep. You can do toilet learning when you're camping because you could be out bush. I need to go to the toilet.
Bush wee.
Yeah. So, it's
let it work for you and your family.
Right.
I think that's the best thing.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if someone's doing it one way and that worked really well for them. Awesome. Yeah. Take on what advice that you will. It's the same with anything when it comes to parenting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's about your child when they're ready.
Exactly.
So if they're ready when you're camping, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Going out while toilet learning, that can be fun.
Oh, yeah. You become a detective because you're going to be checking all the nearest toilets. And this is probably before you go out as well.
Yes.
Checking for the nearest toilets, where if there's a parent room that you can use, spare changes of clothes, underpants.
Have them with you.
Yep. Waterproofing so that, you obviously don't
take
want
a plastic
going
bag.
everywhere.
Yeah. You've got those nappy bags with you for your clothes.
Yeah.
Even if you've got nappy bags, don't throw them away. You're going to need them for a while.
Yeah.
Think about those toileting routines that children already have, that you're starting to recognise those patterns. Okay, usually they go about 30 minutes after they eat, they need to go to the toilet. So you eat, go to the toilet, right, off we go.
Yep.
This is our window of opportunity.
Yep. Or if you're eating while you're out,
make
sure that there's going to be a high chance your little one's going to need the toilet. So have that map ready to go.
Yeah. So eat, then hang around for a little while for a little play, then go to the toilet before you go and do your grocery shopping, because you can guarantee they'll want to go to the toilet while you're at the register.
Mm-hmm.
There are some gender differences when toilet learning
apart from
the obvious, yes, that we need to be a little bit aware of, apart from the obvious, that, sometimes boys are ready a little bit later. It's a little bit of a pattern. Yep. It's not a rule. So just make sure if you've got boys and girls that you don't apply that rule, definitely. Boys might need a few more prompts. You might see that little toilet dance, holding themselves a little bit more before you say, hey, you might need to go to the toilet.
Especially if they're really engrossed in something.
Yes. They might need some target practice, especially if they're doing the male technique, standing up. Yeah. So do you have any recommendations for that?
My son's still sitting down and doing his, but it just depends, because, there's people have used ping pong balls before. Sometimes
a dot in the back.
There's some real novelty things that people.
Yeah, but ping pong ball's pretty common because it doesn't flush. And then just
I'm
a dot
it moves
at the back.
around. That's really hard.
But at least it's in the water.
Yeah, that's true.
Not at the back of the toilet seat. They have to feel their bladder before they can aim. So recommend that you are sitting down.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to do that. Learn that skill anyway, and that they shake it. Girls can be ready earlier. They might be more independent. They can get urinary tract infections more frequently, especially if they haven't learned that wiping from front to back. So it's really important that we teach them that from the start. And they might be a bit curious about the male technique also and how to go, especially if they've got older siblings. They watch dad go to the toilet. So it's important to remember that as well. Yep. Another good reason that you have the males in the house also sit down a wee.
Yep. And be prepared for more mess.
Yes. So we've already sort of mentioned a few of these. So consider when you're supporting boys to learn, are they going to stand or sit? Are they sitting comfortably? Because if they're not sitting comfortably, they might feel a bit unstable. It might feel a bit high. Do they have some edges to hang on to? Yeah. Can they balance on the toilet? Are you going to use training pants or pull-ups? So have some options, because they will tell you which they prefer. Yep. Naming those body parts correctly, really important. Keep nappies for sleep time for a while. Watch for those signs and label them. Okay, you got those full feelings, so you need to go to the toilet. How's it feeling inside? Routine reminders. Collaborate and compromise between home and the centre. If your child's going to a childcare centre, you need to work together. Yes. Because, this is where that toilet timing, you might be able to do it at home every 30 minutes. Impossible at the centre when you've got lots and lots of children to notice all those signs and lots of demands. So think about that.
And with that as well, of course, this is something that it does have to be a collaboration. So with anyone that does help support and look after your child, everyone's got to be in on it. You can't send your little one to childcare and go, they'll learn to toilet train there, but at home we don't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it has to be consistent. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just going to extend everything so much longer for you.
And that can create that anxiety if you're not working together. Children have to remember 2 sets of rules. Or
the code switching.
Too much. And then they can go backwards. Yes. And like we said before, with, increased cognitive development, they can regress anyway. Yep. And we just have to be patient and support them and remind them.
Yep. Toilet learning and hygiene, we've mentioned it before, of course, it goes hand in hand. No pun intended, of course. But definitely when, it's going to get messy, toilet learning. So that's your perfect opportunity to remind your little ones to wash their hands. And, depending on when you're tuning in, we've just gone through a pandemic and all that sort of stuff. Where hand
washing your hands, and there's that little sign from
20 seconds
MRC on how to do it, because usually about 3 little people can often develop a hand washing technique that's a bit like that. Washing and running your hands underwater, or they don't actually want to get it's just the fingertips, they don't actually want to get their palms
or just the hand that they used for wiping. There's going to be some things that you notice.
And there's some older generations that have learned that are men that you don't actually have to wash your hands. Yeah. So that can get handed down too. So we got to make sure we learn that everyone has to wash their hands after they go to the toilet. These images are just some sort of devices that you could use at the early years setting, wherever your children are going to, and at home if they're using these at the service, it might be a good idea to get a copy of them or ask for them. And that just provides that continuity for children to know that they're doing the same thing. And children really do like being able to look at the steps and talk about it. So,
and the reminders as well. I mean, it sounds silly, but it is a whole process. We do have to remember to take our pants off. The amount of times I've seen little ones run in, sit down, pants are still on. You're like,
yes. And you have to teach them how to fold the paper, how much paper they need.
That all starts the whole fold or scrunch debate.
That's right. So they do need reminding, maybe pull your pants up before you flush the toilet so you don't trip over and, into the toilet. So those sort of things are really handy.
We mentioned that the nighttime dryness is a separate milestone to the daytime dryness as well. So we're thinking about nighttime toilet learning, making sure that you're putting it as part of your bedtime routine. So again, it might be that it's just, sit on the toilet for a little bit. If you do away, you do away. If you don't, that's fine. It is what it is. Keep the pressure off. And it might be that you are trying pull-ups or, training pants and things like that as well. If they awake during the night, do check in. Do you need to go to the toilet? Do you want to have a go? But that recognition that the nighttime dryness does take longer and it can take a number of years. It's not necessarily going to happen really quickly. If they are dry in the morning, make sure you're acknowledging that. Be like, oh, I can see you're dry. Cool, no worries.
Yeah, you can hold on. It's time to go. Let's do one on the toilet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you've been dry all night. Go wee. Please do that now. And even, I guess, in that moment as well, would be a great moment to talk about their bladder and that fullness. They're going, I'm so full, especially after a night. And sort of, being aware of how your child feels about the dark and the night as well. I think especially if they know they need to get up and out of bed to use the toilet.
Yeah, because that might make them scared to get out of bed. And
they might not want to. They might not be able to see what's going on.
Yeah, more likely to have an accident. Here are some awesome. You go. No, you go.
I was excited. I was like, "There's a toilet with a light in it. This is so cool." We didn't get toilets with lights when we were toilet learning.
Yeah. So these are just the things that can help children, especially if you've got those ones that are scared of the dark, and they do have to get up because you might have a child. Your first child maybe didn't have to get up at night. Your second child is a night waker to go to the toilet, do a wee in the middle of the night.
I think about me, I'm blind as anything. So walking through the house at night is difficult at the best of times. And if I had glowing LED strips.
That's right. So it's going to help them to make it to the toilet with motion detector lights. Look, you can get a motion detector light in your toilet. This is so cool. How exciting.
So cool.
So these can just support children to not be afraid and to stay dry at night. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. It's been exciting.
Yeah. There's some helplines there as well at the bottom. So there's lots of different helplines for every state that you're in. But if you go to Raising Children, they've got a list of helplines on there that you can go to seek support. If your child is not learning and at 5 maybe and we're still struggling with it, go to your GP, see your paediatrician, or go to these helplines and they can help guide you, because sometimes children don't. There might be some other underlying issues that they need support with. One of the main things that I may not have talked about that I've talked about with Amanda is that you need to make sure children stay hydrated.
Yes.
Because one of the traps is that we think, well, to stop them having lots of accidents, we'll limit how much water they have so that they don't have these great big gigantic accidents. But they won't feel the feeling of being full, so they're more likely to have an accident.
There's other health stuff going on as well. Yes, that's right. Too.
So even before they go to bed, once again, nice glass of water, half an hour, then we go to the toilet and then we go to bed. So so that they can feel that feeling of being full. If we don't have enough water, we can't feel that feeling even during the day, so that they need plenty of water in the bladder to feel it. And the more water they drink, the more often they're going to practice feeling that feeling, and then they'll get it right.
Beautiful.
Thanks for joining us. See you later. I just need my